Hello, I'm Dave and this is FIVER, out once again for a walk in the countryside. Thanks for joining us. Now today we're at the village of Charmouth in Dorset. It's located about 1.5 miles northeast of Lyme Regis and 6 miles west of Bridport on the Jurassic coast. And we're going to be walking a roughly 5.5 mile circular route. We'll start on the beach and then wander through Charmouth itself. We'll then head north along a section of the Monarch's Way to Wootton Fitzpaine, then back south to Catherstone Lewiston before heading back to Charmouth. Now I'm filming at the end of March. It is a beautiful spring day. The sun is out, there's blue sky, should be perfect conditions for a walk. Do come along with us. Now regular viewers might be wondering where my normal walking companion Logan is. Well, he's at home having a rest. We were out filming yesterday, had a very long walk. So my younger dog FIVER is joining us today and he promises he's going to be on his best behaviour. Okay, well, we'll kick on with the walk, and what better place to start than the beach. Well, how about this for a view down by the sea? Quite magnificent. And the sea looking so almost like a Mediterranean blue this morning. This is looking over to the west, and that's Lyme Regis in the far distance. And then, wow, quite glorious, with just some wispy clouds in the sky. Well, I've just met a lovely chap called Eric, who's a regular viewer to the channel. He's now a proud owner of a Dave's Countryside Walks badge. Lovely to have met you, Eric. Oh, I love the sound of waves up against the shoreline. Okay, well, we're going to have a little wander along the beach itself. Now, dogs are allowed. There are restrictions though, so I'll put a photograph up on screen. There's a little sign that gives all the details. Well, this is an interesting building here. It used to be a cement mill. It started to be established in the 1850s but closed down in 1867, and it was built for grinding limestones found on the beach to make into cement. But at some stage it became a heritage centre, I think 1985. There's also a little cafe as well. Well, this is an interesting little hexagonal building looking out over the beach. It was actually built in 1804 for the Customs and Excise Service as a lookout building, and it's still in use today by the National Coast Watch Service. Okay, well, we're now going to leave the beach. I don't think FIVER is much of a water baby. So the first section of the walk, heading northwards along Lower Sea Road, and we'll have a look at a few things in Charmouth. And there's the old schoolhouse, which I think was established in the 19th century. Now it looks like it's a private house. Now shall we see what our friend Sir Frederick Treves had to say about Charmouth in his book Highways and Byways in Dorset that he wrote in 1906. Could have my glasses for this. The Charmouth of the present day is a place of little interest and small simplicity. The village is composed mainly of lodging houses and red brick villas, while the little street is busy all the summer with wagonettes and charabancs. The church, rebuilt in 1836, is exceptionally ugly Well, I think I disagree. Let's have a look at it. Now, this is the Church of St Andrew, built in 1836, replacing an earlier church that was built in 1503. And it consists of a nave, a chancel, a north and south aisle, a west tower, a north porch, a south vestry, and I think it's got 3 bells. Well, in the churchyard is this tomb of a chap called James Warden, who fell in a duel on the 28th of April 1792, and Treves actually mentioned it in his book. Now, Warden had a dispute about some game with his neighbour and bosom companion, Mr. Bond. Incisive language followed, with the result that the 2 old friends met in a field near the Hunter's Lodge on the way to Axminster. They were not impetuous youngsters, for Warden was 56 and a retired naval officer. Pistols were chosen, and it was agreed that the angry men should fire in turn, the first shot being determined by the drawing of lots. Fortune in this particular favoured the naval officer, who fired at his boon companion, the ball passing through his hat. It was now Mr. Bond's turn. He raised his pistol, took steady aim, and shot Warden through the heart. Bond fled away to foreign parts. The body of Warden was carried back to Charmouth and in due course buried, his wife Eliza inscribing 4 verses of poetry on his tombstone. Well, we'll have a little peep inside. Now, just by the door here, it looks as though that's a very old font, quite a small one. And then just up on the right there, the organ above the gallery. Looks like they're having problems with the roof here. They've got some sort of protective netting covering across there. And there's the main font, quite a splendid one as well. Oh, some beautiful stained glass windows here on the southern side. Of course, with the sun out today, really getting the full effect. And there's the pulpit on the right-hand side of the altar. And then just into the chancel, there's the altar with another splendid stained glass windows, which you can see through the netting. It's quite glorious. Now, Charmouth's got an amazing history. The Durotriges tribe established a settlement here in the Iron Age, and of course there were a few forts to the north. There was a Roman road from London to Exeter that passed through here, and indeed the Danes often used the beach for a number of raids or mini invasions. And there was a lot of salt production in the area around about the 12th century. But the village was given to Ford Abbey in 1170, and they held it until the dissolution of monasteries. And much of the land actually was sold around about 1904. Now, the name Charmouth gets its name from, well, the river Char, which it flows into the sea here. The Char name comes from, well, Cerne, which is the Saxon word for river. And in the Domesday Book, the village was recorded as Cernemunda. And Jane Austen, who visited here in 1803, described the village as, and I quote, "a nice place for sitting in unwearied contemplation." In fact, Jane referred to Charmouth a few times in her novel Persuasion, published in 1817. Now, there's the Royal Oak. It became a pub in 1867, but the building is much older than that. And the pub sign shows the memorial stone erected at Lee Lane in Bridport, where King Charles II took his escape route from here to Broad Windsor. More about that later. Now, this building here, the Coach and Horses, It's now a couple of houses, but it was built in, well, around about 1900, replacing an original thatched building that was destroyed in a fire in 1882, and it was closed as a pub, I think, in about 1996. And just down this little side street here, there used to be another pub called the Star Inn that had origins to the 17th century. I think it closed in the 1980s, and it had been called the Drum and Donkey in the past. Now this is an interesting building, the Abbot's House. It shows as the Manse, formerly Queen Arms Inn, on a 1903 map, but the building has got origins to the 16th century and was refaced in the 18th century. It once belonged to Ford Abbey, and famously it gave shelter to King Charles II on the 22nd of September 1651. He was escaping from his defeat at the Battle of Worcester, and he came here disguised as a servant, looking for a boat to take him to France. A ship was found, and the plan was that the ship's skipper, a chap called Stephen Limbury, was to pick up the king from the beach to then take him onto the ship. Well, 2 hours before the agreed pick-up time, Limbury told his wife, who wasn't happy about the idea at all because she'd heard about a proclamation that said anyone found helping or concealing King Charles would face the death penalty. So Mrs. Limbury locked her husband up in his room, and that meant that Charles was never actually picked up off the beach. And the following day he shot off to Bridport and then north to Trent to come up with another escape plan. Now after Charles had left, his helper, Lord Wilmot, stayed behind as his horse needed a horseshoe replacing. But the blacksmith noticed that the other 3 remaining horseshoes on the horse had been put on in counties near Worcester, where the battle was. The alarm was then sounded, but fortunately Charles had got away. And this is the chapel of St Paul's, originally founded in 1689, but rebuilt in 1815 and restored in 1866 and again in 1963. Now over there is the George. It shows as a hotel on a 1903 map. Formerly it was a coaching inn. It dates to the 17th century, but has got roof timbers in it that date back, I think, to the 16th century. Indeed, I was reading it may well have replaced an earlier 13th century building. Well, we're now going to leave Charmouth and head north down a little lane called Bars Lane. Charmouth is quite an extraordinary place. So much history attached to it. Indeed, I've just met another regular viewer, Neil. He also now has a badge. But Neil, as well as organising lots of local walking groups, also is in charge of a local website about Charmouth called Freshford. Do check it out because it's got so much information. And indeed, thanks to Neil for allowing me to use some of the photographs from his website. Well, this next section of the walk takes us northwards, and we've got to go underneath the busy A35, which bypasses the Charmouth. I think it was built in the 1990s. I'll tell you, it really is a glorious day now. So we're now on part of the Monarch's Way, which is that 625-mile long distance path that represents the escape route of Charles II after his defeat at the Battle of Worcester 1651. And it goes from Worcester on all the way over to, well, Bristol, Yeovil, and ends up at Shoreham. Oh, what a peaceful spot. So we continue to head northwards. Looks like we're going up the bottom of a valley following the course of a river that's just flowing on the right hand side there. It's quite idyllic here. Oh, a good spot just to cool the pores down. Getting quite a warm day now. That looks quite relaxing. Any fish in there? He says fish. Ooh, I'm coming out. Well, a little update on the route. We've left the Monarch's Way and we're heading sort of northeasterly towards Wootton Fitzpaine. Well, just to prove that it's definitely spring. Gorgeous little lambs gambolling about. It's always a lovely sight to see, isn't it? We've just made it to the village of Wootton Fitzpaine. It's got two small centres. To the west there's a village hall and about 50 houses which we're not seeing, but over to the east there's a church, a manor house and 12 houses. The name derives from woodtone or woodton, meaning farm close to woods, as well as the manorial name of Fitzpaine. The first documented lord of the manor was indeed Robert Fitzpaine in 1316, I think. But the whole manor estate was broken up and sold in the 1970s, I think. Well, this is the church at Wootton Fitzpaine. I've struggled to get it all in the one picture. It's well surrounded by trees. Now, some sources say there's no dedication and others suggest that it's dedicated to St Paul, and it lies in the grounds adjacent to Wootton House. It was built in the 13th century and enlarged in the 14th and 15th centuries, probably as a chapel to the manor house, but there was a big restoration in 1872. The nave is the oldest bit from the 13th century. The chancel, south porch, south aisle and west tower all date from the 14th and 15th centuries. The north transept and vestry was added in 1872. I think it's got one bell. Well, we'll have our usual little peep inside. And there's the font just on the inside of the door there. I'm just making my way down the nave. Quite a long, narrow nave and chancel. And the pulpit on the right there, wooden, some lovely carvings on the side. And then through to the chancel, the organ on the left-hand side with some beautiful patterns painted on it. And then through to the altar, splendid altar, and look at that for a stained glass window above, beautiful. And then just to the side of the chancel, another stained glass window, again with the sun looking brilliant. Oh wow, just look over there, there's the old village pound. And sure enough, it appears on a 1903 map. Days gone by, any loose stray animals would have been held in there until they were reclaimed by their owners. Okay, well, we're now going to leave Wootton Fitzpaine, heading southwards, following a footpath through Manor Farm, heading for Conegar Hill. Oh, just stopped to catch my breath back, climbing up the side of this hill. A great opportunity just to take in some of these views over to the west. The grass looking so lush and green in the fields. It's quite breathtaking, isn't it? Well, I'll tell you folks, the views that we've been enjoying from the hill have been amazing, both over to the west and over to the east. But now, looking to the south, we can see the sea again, and there's Charmouth down below. It looks as though it's downhill all the way from here. Well, sorry folks, another pit stop for a view. So this is looking back to the north. There's Wootton Fitzpaine and the manor down below. Yeah, you could just stand and just gaze for ages at this. Well, we've now made it to the tiny settlement of Lewiston. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's very small. I think there are about 22 houses in the parish. And at the time of the Domesday Book, it was owned by a chap called William de Leicester and known as Kernelly, which I think has got Saxon origin. The name today comes from a couple of family estates. Catherston from, well, the estate of the Cathtere family, and Lewiston from, well, the estate of the de Lewiston family. Now, Sir Frederick Treves described it as, and I quote, a place of no interest. Let's have a little look anyway. Oh, there is a delightful little church, the Church of St Mary's. Now, there had been a church or chapel belonging to the manor here on the site since 1337 that had been dedicated to St Mary in 1511, but it had become dilapidated, and this one was built in 1858. And it consists of a nave, a chancel, a north vestry, a west turret with a bell cote, and I think it's got one bell, and it was all repaired in 1977. And just to the north of it is the manor house, which it's private, so I can't show too much of it, but it was built in 1887 on the site of a previous house that dated to the 16th century. I think it's now 7 individual houses. Well, we're very much on the homeward leg now, so we continue to head southwards. I think we've got to cross under the A35 again and then back to Charmouth. Well, we're just coming back into Charmouth, sort of the eastern end, and this looks like it's an old toll house on the other side of the road there. We're just crossing over the River Char, which of course flows out into the sea just a few hundred yards or so away. So we're going to follow its course actually all the way to the beach. Aha, change of plan. A sign here, no access to the beach this way, footpath closed due to landslip. Oh, we're going to have to go the other way then. Well folks, here we are back at the beach at the end of our walk. We hope you enjoyed the walk today. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up and a like, and do leave a comment, and do check out our Facebook page, Dave's Countryside Walks. We've had a super walk today. Once again, the weather has been amazing. We're just going to have some ice cream. Well, you've got to really, by the sea. So until we meet again, thanks for watching, and cheerio. Right, vanilla? I think so.